which people have been recommending to me for years, and I've never played. I've had it for a little while now. You know, it's one of those ones sitting around in my library. I love world building, but sometimes I don't love learning. Oh, there we go. I do love learning, but sometimes I don't love kind of small scale learning, so... Okay. Also, I'm so tired of learning these same things, like, oh, move the camera with these. Rotate the view. Never rotate the view. Whatever it is originally, it should always be there. Zoom in and out. Page up, page down. Okay. So, you guys... Oh, I'm not allowed to select them yet. You have a place to live. It's got a wooden house. Yeah, seems nice. Need to collect. Put some storage in place. Need to assign people. Ah, but I can do it just like this. Cool. I'm hoping I can leave that up. No, that's a shame. T or R. Really feels like they should be queuing here. I know I could change these things, but I'm lazy. Sometimes it takes time. This is an example of something that I actually really don't appreciate in games. As someone who really likes structure, having variable time speed, I'm not sure what time I'm supposed to be playing on. And I know we each bring our own Toby experience. Still quite loud. But you can also miss the correct experience because you're playing the wrong way. There's a very widely watched Architects of Games, Game Maker's Toolkit on this, about how players will optimise the fun out of games. Because, you know, if your task that you've been given is to optimise, you do it. And that isn't necessarily the best way to play. So the example given there is XCOM. I think of it a lot in Total War. In Total War, the fact that you can optimise every single battle, you can come out with more troops than... The better you do, the more troops you come out with, and that has a real impact. It means that you can optimise every moment. It's not just do I win or lose, it's exactly how well do I do. Same in XCOM. XCOM, the more your soldiers get damaged, the more it kind of weighs against you, and that forces you to always be optimising. And that kind of encourages you not to play necessarily well. What's going on here? House is too cold? House is too warm? No one knows. Hey. Oh, this is kind of nice. It's kind of apologising to me. Oh, I also had to put that up. Donkey of Video Game Donkey also meditates on this quite well. Donkey, who I can never work out how much he's making a joke and how much he isn't. I feel like by saying that I'm admitting. I feel like someone who's fooled by the onion in saying that. But he has these meditations on how difficult are games and how difficult should games be. And the difficulty isn't necessarily the actual difficulty, it's that you're given the choice. And the choice is good because it allows more people to play the game, but it's also bad because it makes you not sure you're playing the game the correct way. I'm going to speed up time because I know how to do that now. No, I don't. I have no idea what that button was. God, effective teaching in video game tutorials. Could write a PhD on that. Maybe it's I haven't done enough. Oh, it wants me to assign 4. I'm not great at reading instructions always. That's fine. We can go 10 times. I get this really strongly with Paradox games. I'm a big fan of the Paradox games. Apparently I didn't work before. Did these guys just walk through the river? General statistics about the town. Can I have this in Fahrenheit? In Celsius, do you think? Stone. Average health is pretty good. Average happiness is pretty good. Everything's going fine. Cut down more trees. So this is good. It's just reinforcing but slightly changing the cut stuff down. So clearly remove resources and harvest trees and collect stone, collect iron, remove roads. So these 3 being different is useful if you need to particularly do one but don't want to do the other. For example, I quite like having stone around. So there. They're low on firewood. See, the issue with speeding up time is that you probably could optimise by going slower, but you're not necessarily losing anything by going faster. Tropico has this problem as well for exactly the same reason. The game is clearly encouraging me here to speed up time a lot, and that's fair enough. Like, I think this is a generational game. So, it can probably run pretty fast. But like, I enjoyed a lot playing Anno 1404, which is a beautiful and sweet city building game. But it has these time controls, and you kind of don't know, should I be developing quickly or slowly? Similarly with Surviving Mars, a lot of these city builders, that time freedom, like, am I admitting defeat by playing something at 10 times the speed? Especially as there's probably small things I could be changing the whole time. So find out some things about the woodcutter. Okay. Remove that card. What the hell is that? Is that the building? I'm not actually allowed to really click on stuff yet, which is a shame because I see what they're doing and they're limiting the controls so that I don't get lost, but it also means I can't explore while I'm waiting for other things to happen. Okay. These kind of big wikis, they're useful. It's good to know that they're there, but they're kind of high level learning. I think I'm just going to jump in. Oh, the very town of Mifflinburn where everyone is going to die. God, that's dark. I think that probably will happen. Map seeds, terrain types. This isn't going to go well. So, let's just try it. See what happens. Now, I'm really hoping that this is a Sonderer's game in that the things that people need should be hopefully relatively obvious. I don't want another one there. Is 3 houses enough? I need to assign some people to be builders. Let's assign 4 of them to be builders. We need some food, probably. That looks like food. Fishing dog. Is that enough space to fish? I don't want to block the river. That seems fair. Oh, no. Didn't place. Oh, no, it did. I also want some fishers. How many fishers do I want? I want 2 fishers. Do we think this is iron? Or stone? So I've got a ton of firewood, iron, logs, stone. I have some. Oh, I got. I know that's not actually that much. Like, I don't know how long that will feed people for, but that seems like an incredible amount of potatoes. Yeah, show Celsius temperature. Show status items. Pause when not focused. All this time. Everybody loves a bit of. I really feel like this can be in better quality. Should we go big? This at the top of this list, this at the bottom of this list. Collections on everything. I'm not, just in case anyone's popping in, I'm not keeping up with comments because I'm a bad person. I'll get them up now in case anyone's shouting at me that I should do things a different way. Okay. We've got a storage barn. I don't feel like we need water yet. Crops could be really good. I think. Let's have a forester's lodge back here. And that means assigning someone to be a forester. Wait, is a forester's lodge the same as a woodcutter's lodge, or is that the wrong thing? Oh, no, wait. Is that what I wanted? Seems fine. So a lot of people without homes. Need more homes. And we're low on stone. So let's got some stone in that area. People will just do that, right? We have a nice riverside house for you guys. Can I click on a person and find out about them? Pretty happy, pretty healthy. Name is Hunbilly. Because you're not beautiful up close. So, I mean, kind of obviously, I have no idea what I need. Do people use op tools? That feels like exactly the kind of thing that, server logs is low. What's... Oh, there's some of those trees. Can I... You could have 2 more people working here. Oh yeah, no, work. Why would I ever want to limit the amount of food? Let's have a look at... Oh, that's useful. Okay, so there's these 2 nice streams down here. What's going to happen here, I predict it now, is there's going to be a moment where I'm like, everything's sorted, everything's fine, and then it's all going to fall apart. So, let's make more food. That feels like the thing we should do. I'm going to look at this now, it's going to tell me we don't have seeds. What we do, we'll make peppers and pumpkins. Who's doing what job? If you're a labourer, can I get you doing something else? Yes. Which one was that? Peppers. That's pumpkins. Okay. I feel pretty good about having some of those. I realise this might be prime space for something, but what can I... Oh, yeah. Make some pears. Delicious. And then finally, Let's have some grazing lands. Do you want your animals living near the fish? I don't think you probably do. Let's have the animals living here. Ooh, pastures are big. Can I, I'm just going to keep an eye on the iron tools. Can I see that in... Somewhere there was a view of kind of everything going on in the town. Show limits, overhead map, general statistics, here we go. Now, those citizens are at homes. Get at homes, you guys. How many citizens can live in a home? Ah, I did say at the beginning there were 5 families, didn't it? But 9 people without homes. How are there 5 families and 9 people without homes? You guys are not being very neighbourly, that means. I don't know if you like or don't like to be crowded. Let's assume you don't. And roads. Dirt roads cost me anything? I just dirt road this whole stretch. We are still low on stone and wood. Should we just remove the resources in like this area? Yeah, I would argue that often these games, and fair enough, I didn't do the tutorials, often these games tell you information you don't need instead of information you do. What I always want to be seeing is the rate of change of things. I don't care about how many tools there are, I care about are we gaining or losing tools. And I realise that that's part of having trained as a mathematician, that's kind of my priority. But I promise you the world makes a lot more sense that way. Does firewood automatically get converted, or do I need a woodcutter to do that? Oh no, I need a woodcutter specifically to do that. That's what the woodcutter does. Cool. I like the idea that the woodcutter's going to be a reserved person back here. I like planning out people's lives on these games. These banished citizens. And we're just... We could be anywhere, but we're clearly far from everywhere. I should probably be keeping an eye in case... it's late spring. Okay, summer's on the way. Do I have to plant crops at the right time? I basically need more people who are foresters, don't I? Which puts me out of labourers. I'm going to go down a fisherman to have a labourer. It seems important. I can't tell. Okay, you've got fish. You've got fish. How much fish is just here? That right now seems unclear to me. I have no medicine or alcohol. Got some stored iron. And you're a woodcutter without a job. I hope that because you're without a job, you're currently working as a labourer? Alright. I'm now getting chat up. So just in case... just in case anyone's been trying to chat. I'm now finally here. Oh. And I use this, so I'm trying out this thing called Mob Crush, which streams to a bunch of different sources at once. Basically the rationale being that it gives me more chances to successfully meme. Did that fall over on its own? Oh, there are ghosts out there knocking over trees. What the hell are these? I don't know. I feel like... Interesting. I can actually path my citizens by hand. Increase priority of things. I feel like I want a little magnifying glass tool to be able to click on a young tree and know what it is. I don't feel too information rich right now. Got a stockpile, I've got a storage barn. Doesn't seem illogical to have a market. Tell you what, I want to clear these rocks so I can put a market here. Yeah, move resources here. Seems alright, you know, you could live here. Can I bump this in priority? Increase the priority. Center view, toggle pinning. This window seems to stay up. Oh yeah, let's get some data up in here. I'm happy about this. Oh, children have been born. Dolorenza. Isatina. Irilea. Donald and Chorus. Very, Donald and Chorus both sound very Irish. But these guys... Wait. Oh, these guys became adults and they took a house. They were presumably someone's children, but they just took a house from someone. Is this their ages? They're all babies. No, can that be their ages? Is this a town where everyone is like 12 years old? Guess blind leading the blind. Yeah, 10-year-old Irelia, you chop that wood. Whilst 5-year-old Kentony, terrible name. Sorry to any Kentonese watching. Right, I don't want to block out too much of the screen. I'm going to get rid of pop-ups for reserves being low, because that also comes up down here. Disasters, deaths. I'm happy to see death by old age and town events. Okay, so I actually now have, because people became an adult, I have some spare children who can become labourers. Still no one has any firewood, do they? They seem to have gone up in tools. They've gone down in potatoes a lot. I don't know. I don't know if they have enough food, guys. There's a chance that everyone's going to starve. Your health is 4.5 stars. Can you tell me why your health is not 5 stars? No. Shan't. Hey! Did I build this just to not actually have any livestock? Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Don't care about any of that. Let's just check up on what's going on in stream. Nothing much. How's the video quality? It's fine. How's the sound quality? It's fine. How's the sound quality? It's also fine. I'm muting it again now because it'll get confusing, and pausing it but keeping that chat up. Oh, it's nice in the day. Okay, so I could harvest this early if I needed to. They will automatically work it. I've now got a good amount of iron, not much stone. Are you still collecting? Oh, is this not stone? Is this iron? Yeah, this is iron. And I don't have very many labourers. Got some more labourers now, though. I got rid of my labourers window. I did another thing. Don't know why I got rid of that. Maybe I closed it, you know. Don't trust me. I can speed up time. Not very much is happening. It's the middle of summer. It's a lot of children. It's pretty warm. Let's see how much food changes. No one can make any heat. That's okay. Children are being born. Lamb. Where was he born? Lamb was born here. You guys better not have any more children. Mine is about to become a adult. They are an adult. Become an adult at 10. Reserve of food is low. I feel okay about that, but no, I've got other things to build first. I kind of want to build a hunting post, but got another dog this week who is... So I'm working on a theory that I'm actually going to tweet. That all dogs are a mixture of pig type, pig, turtle and goat. A child named Noreen was born. Hey, everyone has a house. And there's even, we're building a house for anyone who wants to move out from their parents, which could be quite a lot of people. I don't know. We're very low. We're very low, and I don't know how much food this produced, but it didn't seem to be very much. Oh, I mean, you guys have a crazy amount of food. Is that food in stockpile? Okay. Whoa, 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 it became winter. It became winter, and I do not feel like anyone is ready for this. Because you're not working? Why are you not working? You're not working because there is no log. Oh, do you want to... Yeah, if you just work entirely on plants. That's pretty good. I think everyone's going to die. Calling it now. It's late autumn. It's minus 8 degrees Celsius. Why did anyone ever move to out of nice, safe Europe out to here? I kind of know the reasons, and that they're difficult systemic reasons about trying to find new opportunities in an otherwise stultified economic system, fleeing religious persecution or just persecution of any kind. It was the only game in town for a lot of people. That's actually why people are here, but God, it's bad. For anyone who's watching from Europe, something that I didn't realise until I moved to the US for a few years, is that the temperature is really extreme. Way more than we're used to. And that's the impact, particularly, I'm saying this particularly to people from Britain or the Atlantic coast or the Mediterranean coast. Those on the Atlantic coast or the Mediterranean coast, and I think to some degree the Baltic coast, have a big heat sink. For the Atlantic coast, it's the Gulf Stream. For the Pacific and the Baltic, it is... for the Mediterranean and the Baltic, it is just... there's an ocean, and the Baltic's a pretty cold ocean. But even so, it keeps temperatures more... not an ocean, a sea, an inland sea. Keeps temperatures more under control, makes the place basically more easily livable. Not really doing anything about the fact that they're running out of food and firewood. I should probably play the tutorials. I don't understand why you're not doing anything. I would like you to work. Materials required to perform work are not available. Everyone in this town is... it's just crazy about not chopping down trees. I kind of wanted to leave this wood back here, but obviously we should chop down this wood. Yeah, it's really extreme temperatures. Like New York would spend a nice month in spring and autumn on kind of reasonable temperatures, and it went shockingly quickly from freezing thick coat weather to boiling air conditioned weather. It was nice to be outside. Like I'm really over complaining here, but the range of temperatures that I think is kind of normal, which is below 10 degrees Celsius is cold, above 20 degrees Celsius is hot. It gets through that transition in a matter of weeks, and then you're in what I call extreme temperatures. Okay, so I just needed to tell people to chop down trees, and they have chopped down trees. So now that those trees are chopped, I think I'm going to put a hunting place back here. Feels like that could do with a road. And yeah, the road probably should come up here. Reserve the firewood, reserve the logs. I thought I told you to turn off. Oh, that's toggle pop-up notifications. Oh no, I want pop-up notifications. So the reserve of everything is low. There's some fish here. Do we think the river will freeze? Could be bad news. I don't know what temperature rivers freeze at. They don't freeze at 0 degrees Celsius. They've got kind of more energy to get rid of than that. I'm going to look it up. Temperature does moving water freeze? On Reddit, Ask Science. So this is not a particularly convincing explanation. I think it's true. Reserve the firewood, reserve the logs, you know, guys, just deal with it. Don't worry about it. Who are you and why are you so unhappy? Why are you not making firewood? Am I missing something here? We have log. Is it because you're prioritising it or going over here? Maybe. Everyone's been told to cut trees, and yet no one is getting firewood. So, Reddit Ask Science, someone says, and I think this is definitely correct, that you also have to take into account the kinetic energy of the water. I'm not sure that's all you need to take into account, though, and I'm not sure. I'd like to see this quantified more. Let's try Cora, which is occasionally very insightful. I should say that it is just true that there is a freezing temperature of water, but it can kind of get past that. I'm going to look at the answer from... No, there's an answer from a PhD student here that's no use. It's a weird thing on Quora. People merge your answers between other things, and often they don't make sense in the context that they're merged. So the phase transition has to grow outward from a point. Is it just the excess kinetic energy? There's probably a specific kinetic energy of each water molecule that you could convert to a temperature. This feels like an under-quantified thing, at least in what I'm looking at here. Let's try this thing from the University of Santa Barbara. The slugs. Has anyone seen this? The Santa Barbara mascot is this fantastic banana slug. Okay, so in things like lakes and ponds, the top water freezes first. Well, no, sorry, no. The ice is less dense, so whichever bits freeze move to the top. So effectively the top freezes first. And this insulates the rest of the water from the cold. Now that surprises me, because what heat is it insulating? Is it insulating heat from the ground? Yeah, temperature of the ground below never reaches freezing. Ah, this is really interesting. So, this person who's writing this, I'm guessing this is grad students or something answering these questions as they go. No one is working here. Let's get a couple of people on it. Back down to having no labourers. Everyone seems to be doing okay. There's not much stored food, but people have quite a lot of food in their houses. They've even got firewood. It could be nice to have more stored food, but it's not the end of the world. I probably could be running this at 2 times speed, couldn't I? Without having too many worries. Water freezing below. Yeah, so they say here that in their home state of Wisconsin, the soil temperature 2 feet below the surface never goes below 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Sorry guys, I don't know what that is in Celsius. Which makes sense because soil has a really big heat capacity. So it holds a lot of energy and it lets out a lot of energy. So what you're kind of seeing there is that the heat energy that's stored in summer doesn't have time to dissipate in winter. That's one. There's actually 2 possibilities here, and I'm not sure which is correct. Either we're seeing summer heat slowly leaving the ground because so much of it is stored, or we're seeing thermal Earth core heat which leaves the ground year round. I don't know what scale that heat is redistributed at. Like the centre of the Earth is very hot. I don't know if that's coming up. I think maybe it is. I've just been in Iceland where there's hot springs all over the place because it's relatively new and there's a lot of heat close to the surface. We might be seeing core heat that doesn't really depend on what's actually happening at the surface. So I'm gonna... You can quote me on this, but quote me as saying I was uncertain. I'm going to say that I think it's most likely... I just feel like these guys aren't chopping down trees. Are you? I told you to chop down trees. Where did the trees go? I'd like to put someone else on your job, because you don't seem to be doing it. I think that what we're seeing here is hot mantle heat. And at the very surface it manages to escape, because there's not that much weight of heavy heat-consuming material above it. Oh, look. Oh, we survived a winter. We survived a winter. Everyone's pretty healthy. 4 stars is fine. Feels like we can start thinking about doing the next thing. I think it might be time for a schoolhouse. You know, other things we could build. So, this explains why... Because often when you see like a frozen lake, it is only the top that's frozen, and it can be frozen a foot deep. I once walked across... I was happily quite a light person at the time. As a child, once walked across a frozen lake in London, and that can only have been frozen an inch or 2. It's really stupid. Video somewhere. Maybe one day I'll put it on YouTube. But that explains a lot to me. Let us stop learning, guys. Children are born. Some of them are becoming labourers. Given that we have spare children, let's put them into that. Spare children sounds a bit wrong. And that. So I'm basically not planning to expand up here. Just south. Kind of like keeping it a bit wild. My question, are there bears in this game? I don't think there are. Okay, so that explains something that I didn't know before about why water freezes the way it does. I feel like I've learned something about heat capacity and the ground heat. This is how ground source heat pumps work, I think. That's a way to get heat year round from the ground, which we could all be doing. Could all probably be heating our houses like this. I'm going to look this up actually. I am getting to whether or not rivers will freeze. This is really just trying to sell me stuff at the moment. Geothermal heat pump, Wikipedia. Transfers heat to or from the ground. So it works best in places where the ground temperature is nice, but you can kind of go as deep as you need because the ground temperature is pretty constant, I think. Just in case, I don't think this is the most complex concept, but just in case anyone's watching this thinking, like, I don't really understand what this heat capacity talk is going on about. Let me tell a little analogy. The first time I went to the US, I lived in California for a few months. I was working at UCLA. And at the end of my time there, my parents flew out to meet me. I was 20 at the time. I've been doing some research into nuclear reactors for like undergraduates. Nice kind of guided research project, more for the sake of us getting some research experience than doing anything too meaningful. Although it was real work, it was meaningful work. It was quite group dependent who really achieved something and who kind of just used it as time for learning. Anyway, at the end of it, my parents came out and we drove up the California coast and visited some friends, went up Highway 1 and then went inland to Yosemite. And we arrived in Yosemite and we weren't actually very prepared. We just didn't really know what we were arriving at. Like, we hadn't camped in the US before. And there wasn't anywhere to get food, obviously. So we went to a gas station and we bought some rice and beans and tortillas. We were perfectly happy with this, but we didn't have any cooking equipment. We had fire equipment, but we didn't have cooking equipment. And so what we did is, we might have had a pan, built fire, and we put a stone in it to heat up the stone, to use kind of as a natural pan. Like, put some water on it first, cleaned it off, and I could do with some leather, couldn't I? Could do with some clothes. I'm going to build a tailor. I like this. I'm starting to think, like, what do my people need? What are we low on? We're always low on logs. Literally, are you chopping down trees? And we actually ended up cooking the whole of dinner and eating it before this stone ever got hot. Made do with other things because it was a big stone. It just absorbs a lot of heat, and where that heat is going is, it's really dense and it's passing its kinetic energy to many molecules, many more than in water, for example, and they're just vibrating more and more on the spot, such that it's not really changing the shape or anything. It's not like water where you see it start boiling. It just also because the bonds are so strong, it's kind of unlike water where the things can gain energy and start moving around and you can really see the difference. The bonds in a piece of stone or a piece of metal are so strong that they're really kind of shaking the cages. That's how they're getting their energy, rather than moving about. And that's because they're locked in place. So all this to say, you can just put a lot more heat in to a solid than a liquid or a gas. And thus, soil can hold a lot of heat, and that's how this geothermal heat is working. I'm looking this up now because I'm wondering if geothermal heat pumps are just the solution to all heating. So the temperature is between 10 and 16 degrees. That's all over the world, anywhere in the world at 6 meters depth. That's pretty palatable, wherever you are. So they're basically working as a refrigerator. You're sending material, refrigerant. Refrigerant is just high heat capacity material. You're sending high heat capacity liquids generally. So if you have a kind of liquid loop, you send that loop down, you let it absorb a lot of that heat from down there, it naturally rises back up, it emits its heat back out, and it naturally goes back down. So it's kind of you don't really need any maintenance of it. It just keeps going around. In summer, if you want to use this as cooling, you need to pump the water around because it's hotter above ground than below ground. Thus, that water won't come down. In winter, it just should do it itself. Water does rise, but if the temperature difference is small, it might be worth pumping it for the sake of it. Air source heat pumps. I'll look these up as well. So there are no seasonal variations below about 10 meters due to thermal inertia. It says this article, which is volumetric heat capacity. So it is what I've been talking about. Like a cave. Shall I go in temperatures? $1 million worldwide, annual growth of 10%. This is cool as hell. This is cool because although digging a deep hole is difficult, it is kind of a thing you can do in your own house. As you go down, you will start to hit. Guys, can we just get more logs? Can you just harvest these trees? I'm enjoying the pace of this game. I'm just kind of leaving it on, doing other things. It's hard to dig down that deep. Like 10 meters is a long way down, and we should probably be cautious encouraging people to do that, but yeah, and a lot of in Finland and Sweden, they're the most common heating choice, and they probably should be because they're just energy free. Like they're not immediately easy, but I'm calling it now. If you are looking to invest in something, invest in ground source heat pumps. Alright, people are legitimately hungry. These crops are coming soon. We're in late summer and people are hungry now. We've eaten through all those potatoes. I only have pears and pumpkins. I'm going to build, once these trees are gone, another field for the crops. Going to build another orchard because I like them, and then I'm going to build another crop field, and a bit bigger this time. And whoop, 2 farmers dead of starvation. Farmers are exactly the ones that probably should hope don't die of starvation. So let's make sure we have as many farmers as we need. We only have space for 3 right now. That will change. Hey, have you hit your cap so you'll finally stop making firewood and start just being logs? Okay, so ground source heat pumps. That was a diversion, but a cool one to think about. Going back to how and why, whether or not rivers freeze in winter. So back on the UCSP science line, I feel like maybe I should have like a Wikipedia window always up on stream, because frankly I'm always on it, always learning. So if there are dissolved materials, the freezing point is lowered. You have to get it colder to actually successfully freeze things. That's non-obvious. I should go and understand that, but I want to get to the actual, let's get to the heart of this. Also, the motion can cause heating. For example, water in a waterfall gains kinetic energy as it falls, which is converted into heat and sound energy. Therefore, the surrounding temperature would have to be lower. So that's injection. This says that the fact that water is moving might influence the freezing behaviour, but it would encourage rather than discourage freezing. This just doesn't seem to be true. Oh my god. A lot of people have died of starvation. Can we... Why can't we harvest it? We don't have enough farmers. All the farmers are dying. So what do we not need? We don't need hunters and foresters. Let's get more people on this. Is... Oh, no. Oh, they are harvesting it. Okay. Just keep making that pair. And this is becoming a crop field. I basically didn't get enough crops, and so now my population is pretty low. Let's have a big pumpkin patch. I just feel like you can eat more pumpkins than peppers. And people are working on everything. And it's early autumn, so we won't get that harvest in. It's going to be a tough winter, basically. We also don't have clothes or teachers. This building isn't needed right now. This just doesn't have anyone working at it. I'm just not convinced this explanation is correct. I've often been in places that are below freezing where the water isn't. And in fact, water often flows down from mountains where it's much colder. Like, I know that there's cold places where the water does get stuck, but I feel like it has to be significantly below freezing. I feel like still water freezes before flowing water. Maybe that really is just the kinetic energy difference. And the ability for it to redistribute heat. Because you can expect flowing water to be about as hot as the bottom of the river. I'm not really convinced of my explanation. I've got a bunch of not being used buildings. People are dying. People are dying, and there could be more. More fisher people. Why were there not more fisher people? Why don't they not have as many food people working as possible? Good news is that orchard's going strong. No one is not employed. Probably going to stop soon and have some lunch. So how much food do people have in their houses? You've got loads of food. You've got loads of food. You've got loads of food. I guess what I'm seeing here is that you don't have very much food. You've got a good amount. You're not a house. Oh, someone else became an adult and became a labourer. Oh, and then I put them into work. What we often see in these situations is what you might call cascading failure, where the thing that causes the failure happens a long time before the failure, and equally the whole system can have recovered by the time the failure presents itself, like the root cause can actually be gone. We might have been making enough food for ages, even whilst people are starving, and we now may be overproducing food because they're kind of panicked and overcommitted to food production. This is a really common thing in any chaotic system, and like this is certainly a chaotic system. Like if the wrong person dies, the whole thing can spiral out of control. If the first person to die from starvation is a fisher person, and I don't like notice that and catch it, starvation only gets worse. Whereas if they're a school teacher, big whoop, no school teacher. To all the school teachers out there, this is a very specific example. People are getting less healthy. I just went down another half health. That's fair. People are dying of starvation. So often in chaotic systems, failures cascade long after their cause, and this is what makes an economist's job so difficult, for example. They're trying to predict and understand failures that are happening really detached from when we actually see them. Modern culture is really cruel to most difficult thinkers. We get angry at economists and journalists for not predicting things going wrong at the right point. We kind of hold them responsible for it. Not so much academic economists, but economists tied to bankers, and bankers we're all angry at. And bankers are greedy as hell. But also they're working in an impossible system. In fact, I think it's that kind of fundamental unknowability, that really difficult to predict. The fact that it's so difficult to predict that makes them act so poorly. I think that when we're working in impossible systems, like ununderstandable systems, we feel like we get a free pass. And I don't know if that's a conscious thought or if it's just on the subconscious, but it's... I don't know. I feel like we're often... I'm trying not to defend anyone who I don't think deserves defending, but I kind of think everyone in some way deserves defending. That's deep humanism, that's sonderism, thinking that everyone is just... They can make mistakes and they should be held responsible for those mistakes, but they're also basically just acting as well as they can given the situation. What are we low on? Reserve of tools. That's going to be a problem. So there are 9 children and they are going to grow up, and we're not going to send them to school because we don't have the resources. But we can set them making tools. I'll eventually want a market. I'm not going to build it yet. That town hall is huge. Market is huge. Okay, so that means I'm going to build a blacksmith here, so there'll be plenty of space for the market. A picture of a tree really doesn't, to me, say this is a person who's going to make tools. I feel like that's maybe a bit mislabeled. So we're pretty deep in winter. I've got no food stored, but how's everyone doing on food? I feel like we're doing okay. These guys are vegetarians, apparently. Everyone has food. Low on stone. Oh, there's a bunch of stone here. Let's go pick it up. This is an incredibly calm deer. So I've been playing and really enjoying Breath of the Wild recently. And that is a world in which I'd love to do this city builder. City builders in kind of narrative worlds seem a bit rare. And that's a shame. Like Tropico is a great example of this, and I think this was a genre, but I think it kind of died out. I tried to play a bit of Zeus. There's a series of games which are like Zeus and Poseidon, and they're old-fashioned city builders of the kind of settlers style. And it was just a bit too much working it out. And that's the difficult thing. It's nice when the city builder is basically intuitive. Like, I feel pretty on top of this. I definitely felt this. I think Frostpunk was excellent. I think Frostpunk was intuitive and enjoyable in the way it you were making decisions that were out of this world. You were in a fantasy situation, but you weren't kind of knocked off your feet by how confusing it all was. Because actually the needs of your people were really intuitive. You're like, yeah, they need to stay warm. And so I want to see more city builders that are themed and allow us to explore another world, not just a slightly mundane world. Like, it's lovely exploring a truth, a historical truth, like we're doing here. This is a game that could be in history classes and would probably do good to do so. It would be a good way to learn about this bit of history. But it doesn't it's not very fantastical. And fantasy is great. Not like just general. I don't mean fantasy as in like the genre. I don't mean elves and dwarves necessarily. I mean imaginative. This is often the trade-off we have to take between being imaginative and being factual. I really recommend Hilary Mantel, who is a British author who writes wonderful books that actually have been big inspirations to me in the last few years, because the characterizations are very human. No, don't refreeze. Get warm. Get warm, get fed. How's everybody doing on food now? They're doing okay. A bit worried about this house, but I think everyone's going to survive. And she writes about the role of the author writing about history, as compared to the role of the historian. And I think she's cautious to make this point because academics are snobs, but someone writing about history is acting as a historian. They shouldn't be acting as an absolutist historical record. But I think it's completely fair that they can and should be acting as a... What are you doing? What's your issue? So it isn't about tools. Okay, we're hitting that issue. They can and should be acting as people try and spark imagination and teach that way. It's kind of my fundamental belief that all artists are teachers in some way. They shouldn't be held to their teaching. They shouldn't be judged successful or unsuccessful because of it. But I think it is fair for them to be rewarded for doing good teaching and encouraged whenever possible to do good teaching. This stream is supposed to be teaching, partly about things like what I'm actually looking at here, but a lot about just memes and chaos theory and learning and physics and whatever comes up. I know a lot. I know a ton. I've just spent my entire life learning and I want to pass it on, and this seemed like an okay way to do it. Feels weird admitting to that. Feels weird admitting to being like an educational stream, but obviously that's what I'm about. I kind of think of myself as at work right now. I'm always worried that one day a PhD supervisor or someone will see that I'm doing this and be like, what the hell are you doing? Wasting your time doing this, you should be doing whatever I'm doing. I promise I am making progress on how dynamical friction affects galaxies by doing this, both in a mental health way and look at the size of them mushrooms. I'm going to build a gatherer's hub because there's just good things to gather out here, both in a mental health way, but also in a thinking way. Like I think about this a lot, like whether I dare admit to it. I am kind of a natural philosopher. I don't mean to say that in a really high-minded sounding way. I mean specifically, I do new science by trying to think of new ways to think. So I throw myself at old problems, not like just crunching the numbers. There's a lot of number crunching needed in science. In fact, that's what most scientists do. And I'm not adverse to crunching the numbers, but I also think that often there are shortcuts, or at least there's the capacity for shortcuts. And there aren't many people who go looking for those. And I do, and do I find them? I think arguably I do. I put out quite a lot of papers a year, often about new stuff, kind of predicting observations before we find them. I feel like I have to justify my work a lot. You're probably hearing that. That might be as much neuroatypicism. I'm worried about losing my job the whole time. I'm worried about losing my livelihood, basically. I'm worried that I'm not good enough to deserve funding. It's a weird thing to admit in the public sphere, but yeah. I don't rationally think that's true, but most thought, even when you're trying to be rational, is not rational. I'm anxious that literally by trying to be a natural philosopher rather than a tool-based scientist, that I'm not deserving of funding and support by the establishment. Anxiety and depression are weird. I can't speak with any authority on them, apart from as someone who's experienced them and is still experiencing them, and who thinks about the mathematics and mental health all the time. Maybe I can speak with authority on them. Like, who is more of an authority on this? Some people are, but and I look forward to learning about their work. I find it hard to learn about other people's work because I get overloaded by information, and I find it hard to know what's of good quality and what isn't. Like learning a piece of physics, learning about ground source heat pumps, I can look at the Wikipedia page and I can pick out the useful information there. but on a whole new subject, including mental health, which is a really difficult, nebulous subject. I just don't know how to pick out the useful information, and so I kind of get stuck. I get I don't know what's true and what's just kind of rhetoric and diatribe. And so I just don't want to engage with it because it's overwhelming. And it's a fun common outcome of the person I am, maybe my personality disorder. I don't know. I'm conscious to go claiming a personality I'm cautious to go claiming a personality disorder or a mental health thing. In case it's taking away other people's agency, in case it's kind of appropriation. I'm pretty powerful in my role in life. Everything's kind of going fine. I'm going to take a fisherman away. I think we maybe have enough food production. Let's get some tools going. I'm really worried of what I might call thought crime, which is saying or thinking something that is indefensible, even now or in the future. Putting out some opinion that turns out to be really probably just misinformed or coming from a misapprehension about how people are or how people act. Basically, my experiences as a youth, I was very absolutist, and I would go around saying, like, people should do things this way. And now I see how wrong that was, and that's taken away a lot of my faith in my ability to know anything absolutely. And I'm much happier to be less absolutist, but it's scary, because it just opens up the possibility that one day what I think is right will be proved wrong, and maybe that I'll be proved as a bad guy. 2 people literally just died of starvation. Let's harvest some crops. These houses are running out of food. Oh my god. People need to share more. Oh, everything seemed like it was going fine, but then everyone's dying of starvation. Bloody hell. I feel like they starved so quickly. I guess I don't know. If we're going to survive. I don't think I need a tailor. So let's get this person off this duty. I need all food producers. Did that herbalist hut ever get built? No, but when it does, we should have a herbalist. I'm going to pause the stream and go have lunch, and maybe do some more notes of the grindstone work. Yeah. I feel like I need a sign-off. Thanks for dropping by. Alright. I will see you cats on the flip side. I'll pause this where it is. It'll pick up later.